Okay, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. All right, y'all. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. Where's my pen? Hold on. Auntie, shalom, shalom. Audrey, shalom. Demi, shalom. All right, y'all. Happy Saturday. It is January 22nd, 2022. Day number 11 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day count. Day 1029. Today, we're reading Genesis 31, 32, and 33. And then we're going to pick up with chapter 8 of My Big Toe, or also known as My Big Theory of Everything. All right. Yahuwah is one. Shalom. Yes. Oh, great spirit, Yahuwah, fill us that we become one in spirit with you. Yes. Hallelujah. Okay. Let's do this. Y'all get a lot of snow where y'all at? Well, maybe just for the East Coast, maybe. I don't know. I ain't checked any other place. We got snow. We got a lot of snow. Well, a lot more than we normally get here. Let's see. They said it was supposed to be getting something like 16 inches. That don't look like 16 inches to me. And coming from somebody that lived in Chicago for almost 10 years, this ain't no snow. This is just a light little dusting. Okay. 31. All right, y'all. What'd I do? What's wrong? Okay, y'all. Call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that Yahuwah, your God, commanded me to teach you. You must obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. And you and your children and grandchildren must fear Yahuwah, your God, as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the land flowing with milk and honey, just as Yahuwah, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, he is God alone. You must love Yahuwah, your God, with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. You must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you're at home, when you're on the road, when you're going to bed, and when you're getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. Yahuwah, your God, will soon bring you into the land he swore to give to you when he made a vow to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig, and eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget Yahuwah, who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear Yahuwah, your God, and serve him. When you take an oath, you must only use his name. You must not worship the gods of the neighboring nations, for Yahuwah, your God, who lives among you, is a jealous God, and his anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test Yahuwah, your God, as you did when you complained at Massa. You must diligently obey the commands of Yahuwah, your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in Yahuwah's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that Yahuwah swore to give to your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as Yahuwah said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these decrees and regulations that Yahuwah our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but Yahuwah brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. Yahuwah did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give to our ancestors. And Yahuwah our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him so that he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives as he has done to this day. But we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands of Yahuwah that Yahuwah our God has given us. All right, beautiful people. Y'all would love to see the snow. Let me see if I can turn around a little bit for y'all real quick. Hold on. Let me unplug. Shalom, Dana. I'll knock my thing down. Hold on. Let's see. Uh-oh. Let's y'all. Can y'all see? Can I see back there? That's as much as y'all gonna get right here from the window. Oh, let me get my book. I just knocked it down on the floor. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Mariah, Marie, Israel, shalom, shalom. Dana, hey girl, hey. Shalom. I watched Star Wars for the first time last night. May the force be with you has a whole new meaning. When he told him to disconnect with conscience and not to trust what your eyes see. Yo, I'm telling you, once you start being awakened to a lot of what's really going on, you will see that they've been forever putting it in movies. Now, I don't know that they're trying to flaunt what they know in front of the masses of ignorant people, or is people who are creating the movies that can only say so much, but since they know we understand the story form, they put it all in the movies in hopes that those who are waking up or trying to wake up can catch the subtle hints that they throwing out there. Maybe not. You know, I choose to believe the best of people the most of the time. So I'm just going to go with the thought that somebody who knows what's going on is trying to wake up the ignorant masses. I just choose to believe that they're trying to wake us up. Even if they're not. There's so many clues in there that help you, where you can go looking into other stuff, and you'll be amazed at what you find. You will really be amazed at what you find and some of the little nuggets of truth that they drop in movies. Like I said, whether it's on purpose in hopes to reach somebody, or whether they want to use their information and flaunt it from you and laugh at you because you're ignorant and can't see it. Either way, it's helpful for me. Joy, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get right to the reading so we can get to my big toe. Yeah, it's cold down here, babe. The heat is definitely raising all the way upstairs. Like all the heat is going up there. Morning, Linda. She said, my country is always warm, and when it gets a little chilly, I think the Most High, I've been born into a warm country. Don't like to be cold. I wish I was born in some tropical region that's warm 24/7. Like my husband hear me say it all the time. I want to live somewhere tropical. I really want to live somewhere tropical. I just don't believe I was meant to live in a place like this. Not that Virginia is not that bad, you know, but over the recent years, it's been getting more cold, right? We ain't never, like for the last 3 years consecutively, it has snowed when it never used to snow in Virginia. Matter of fact, a few Christmases, during like the Christmas season, it was still hot here. Like I remember a couple Christmases, my husband was outside in shorts and flip-flops washing our vehicles, right? And I'm just like, what is going on here? You know, so something is definitely changing. Yeah, you know, when it's all said and done, I want to live somewhere tropical. You know, I really do. And where you say you stay at, Linda? You stay in Barbados? You said Barbados? I might have had it wrong. Where you say you stay at? Joy, you done with DC? Yeah, DC just another whole story. I mean, y'all like right there, but y'all seem like y'all get more snow than what we do. I would not want to live in DC. Let me pull this up. Genesis 31. Okay, y'all. Barbados. I got it right. Oh, okay. I remember Barbados. Okay, Linda. Okay, girl. Okay. I remember. My memory ain't all that bad. Okay. But I would love to come to Barbados. This is a lot of places on my list. We're going to get to them. Okay. Genesis chapter 31. Yeah, Genesis chapter 31. But Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything, they said. He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense. Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude toward him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your father and grandfather and to your relatives there, and I will be with you. So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, I have noticed that your father's attitude towards me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I have worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. For if he said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time, during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob. And I replied, yes, here I am. The angel said, look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah responded, that's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women, and after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father legally belongs to us and to our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Padan Aram and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading for the hill country of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled, so he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead, but the previous night, God had appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone. Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead, and he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. What do you mean by deceiving me like this? Laban demanded. How dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast and with singing and music accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home, but why have you stolen my gods? I rushed away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I thought you would take your daughters from me by force, but as for your gods, see if you can find them and let the person who has taken them die, not knowing that this very curse was coming for his own beloved wife, Rebecca. Not Rebecca. That was his mama. Rachel. Okay, I got it. I rushed away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I thought you would take your daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, see if you can find them, and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours, and I will give it back. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then into the tents of the two servant wives, but he found nothing. Oh, and if y'all weren't here, if you haven't read it, Laban actually found out that somebody did take it because they didn't take all of his household gods. He actually still had a couple left, and he went and did his whole little divination with those, and they actually told him that they was in Jacob's camp. Somebody within Jacob's camp took him, right? The idol actually spoke out to him, right? So you get in there, you will see that they were actually hearing voices from the idols that they had, which drove them on to continue worshiping them because they really thought that they were real. But compared to the God, they were no gods at all, right? Okay. As long as we understand that. When Laban had thoroughly searched her tent without finding them, she said to her father, please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period. Hold on. I think I skipped a sentence. I did. I'll go back to 33. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then into the tents of the servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent, but Rachel had taken the household idols and hidden them in her camel's saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had searched thoroughly her tent without finding them, she said to her father, please, sir, forgive me if I do not get up for you. I'm having my monthly period. So Laban continued his search, but he couldn't find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. What's my crime? He demanded. What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us, before our relatives, for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time, your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years, I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or taken in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. I worked for 14 years earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years for your flock. You changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse and my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. Jacob's treaty with Laban. Then Laban replied to Jacob, these women are my daughters. These children are my grandchildren. And these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do about my daughters and their children? But what can I'm sorry, I'll be reading so fast trying to get into character. I'll be skipping words. Hold on. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will be a witness to our commitment. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, gather some stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Laban called the place Jegar Sahadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic, and Jacob called it Galeed, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, this pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we made today. This explains why it was called Galeed, witness pile, but it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban said, may the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, God will see it, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I have set between us? They stand between us as a witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones or this monument to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather, Abraham, and the God of my grandfather, Nahor, to serve as judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. But there was a whole lot of little heads to kiss. Imagine all them kids that they had between all the women. I mean, I guess it wasn't that much. It was like 12. Yeah, and they didn't mention the daughters. They mentioned Dinah. Okay. Genesis chapter 32. As Jacob started on his way again, angels of God came to meet him. When Jacob saw them, he exclaimed, this is God's camp. So he named the place Mahanaim. Jacob sends gifts to Esau. Then Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau, who was living in the region of Seir in the land of Edom. He told them, give this message to my master Esau. Humble greetings from your servant Jacob. Until now, I have been living with Uncle Laban, and now I own cattle, donkeys, flocks, sheep, and goats, and many servants, both men and women. I have sent these messengers to inform my lord of my coming, hoping that you will be friendly to me. After delivering the message, the messengers returned to Jacob and reported, we met your brother Esau, and he is already on his way to meet you with an army of 400 men. Jacob was terrified at the news. He divided his household, along with the flocks and herds and camels, into two groups. He thought, if Esau meets one group and attacks it, perhaps the other group can escape. Then Jacob prayed, O God of my grandfather Abraham, the God of my father Isaac, O Lord, you told me, return to your own land and to your relatives, and you promised me I will treat you kindly. I am not worthy of all the unfailing love and faithfulness you have shown me, your servant. When I left home and crossed the Jordan River, I owned nothing except a walking stick. Now my household fills 2 large camps. O Lord, please rescue me from the hand of my brother Esau. I am afraid that he is coming to attack me, along with my wives and children. But you promised me I will surely treat you kindly, and I will multiply your descendants until they become as numerous as the sands along the seashore, too many to count. Jacob stayed where he was for the night. Then he selected these gifts from his possessions to present to his brother Esau: 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 200 ewes, 20 rams, 30 female camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, and 10 male donkeys. He divided these animals into herds and assigned each to different servants. Then he told his servants, "Go ahead of me with the animals, but keep some distance between the herds." He gave these instructions to the men leading the first group. "When my brother Esau meets you, he will ask, 'Whose servants are you? Where are you going? Who owns these animals?' You must reply, 'They belong to your servant Jacob, but they are a gift for his master Esau. Look, he is coming right behind us.'" Jacob gave the same instructions to the second and third herdsmen and to all who followed behind the herds. "You must say the same thing to Esau when you meet him, and be sure to say, 'Look, your servant Jacob is right behind us.'" Jacob thought, "I will try to appease him by sending gifts ahead of me. When I see him in person, perhaps he will be friendly to me." So the gifts were sent on ahead, while Jacob himself spent the night in the camp. Jacob wrestles with God. During the night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 servant wives, and his 11 sons, and crossed the Jabbok River with them. After taking them to one side, he sent over all his possessions. This left Jacob all alone in the camp, and the man came and wrestled with him until dawn began to break. When the man saw that he could not win the match, he touched Jacob's hip and wrenched it out of its socket. Then the man said, "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking." But Jacob said, "I will not let you go until you bless me." "What is your name?" the man asked. He replied, "Jacob." "Your name will no longer be Jacob," the man told him. "From now on, you will be called Israel, because you have fought with God and with men and have won." "Please tell me your name," Jacob said. "Why do you want to know my name?" the man replied. Then he blessed Jacob there. Jacob named the place Peniel, which means face of God. For he said, "I have never seen God face to face, yet my life has been spared." The sun was rising as Jacob left Peniel, and he was limping because of the injury to his hip. Even today, the people of Israel don't eat the tendon near the hip socket because of what happened that night when the man strained the tendon out of Jacob's hip. And I gave y'all a little insight into this chapter, the hidden wisdom that's hidden right inside of here. Peniel, right? I saw God face to face. Peniel, right? Last chapter for today. I'll probably share a little bit more on that today. Maybe I'll just do something on Jacob in that particular place right there, kind of break it down a little bit more. All right. Some people want to fight you on the on the inside wisdom they can't see. I'm like, okay, well, keep reading the story. It's still a good story. Tell about the history. You ain't got to fight me. Jacob and Esau make peace. Then Jacob looked up and saw Esau coming with his 400 men. So he divided the children among Leah, Rachel, and his 2 servant wives. He put the servant wives and their children in the front, Leah and their children next, and Rachel and Joseph last. Then Jacob went on ahead. As he approached his brother, he bowed down to the ground 7 times before him. Then Esau ran to meet him and embraced him, threw his arms around his neck, and kissed him, and they both wept. Then Esau looked at the women and children and asked, "Who are these people with you?" "These are the children God has graciously given to me, your servant," Jacob replied. Then the servant wives came forward with their children and bowed before him. Next came Leah with her children, and they bowed before him. Finally, Joseph and Rachel came forward and bowed before him. And what were all the flocks and the herds I met as I came?" Esau asked. Jacob replied, "They are my gift. They are a gift, my lord, to ensure your friendship." "My brother, I have plenty," Esau answered. "Keep what you have for yourself." But Jacob insisted, "No, if I have found favor with you, please accept this gift from me. And what a relief to see your friendly smile. It is like seeing the face of God. Please take this gift I have brought you, for God has been very gracious to me. I have more than enough." And because Jacob insisted, Esau finally accepted the gift. "Well," Esau said, "let's be going. I'll lead the way." But Jacob replied, you can see, my lord, that some of the children are very young, and the flocks and herd have their young too. If they're driven too hard, even for one day, all the animals could die. Please, my lord, go ahead of your servant. We will follow slowly, at a pace that is comfortable for the livestock and the children. I will meet you at Seir." "All right," Esau said, "but at least let me assign some of my men to guide and protect you." Jacob responded, "That's not necessary. It's enough that you've received me warmly, my lord." So Esau turned around and started back to Seir that same day. Jacob, on the other hand, traveled on to Succoth. There he built himself a house and made shelters for his livestock. That is why the place was named Succoth, which means shelters. Later, having traveled all the way from Padan Aram, Jacob arrived safely at the town of Shechem in the land of Canaan. There he set up camp outside of the town. Jacob bought the plot of land where he camped from the family of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 pieces of silver. And there he built an altar and named it El Elohi Israel. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. And that means El Elohi Israel means God, the God of Israel. Just in case you didn't know. Okay. Robert Betwabu. Okay, y'all. My big toe. And we starting at chapter 8. So remember, they had already went to Mr. Monroe's estate and everything, the guy that wrote the book about his outer body experiences. And so they already met with him. And remember, Dennis and Tom is actually now making trips a few times a week back to Mr. Monroe's estate to get the lab set up so they can do some official out-of-body testing to see if this is a fluke or if this is something that can be reproduced with anybody, anywhere. Does everybody have this capability, right? Okay. Chapter 8, the science of altered states. The lab building contained, among other rooms, a control room and 3 isolation chambers. One chamber had been constructed with complete electromagnetic shielding so the Earth's magnetic field and other stray radiation would not wash out or overpower the effect that carefully controlled electromagnetic fields might have on alternate states of consciousness. Each chamber was constructed to provide as much sensory deprivation as possible and was connected to the control room by audio and a host of measuring devices. I borrowed some unused, sophisticated, and expensive electrostatic sensing equipment and audio signal generators, and Bob purchased a complete EEG, encephalographic. That's what EEG stand for. Electroencephalograph. Okay. I borrowed some unused, sophisticated, and expensive electrostatic sensing equipment and audio signal generators, and Bob purchased a complete EEG setup and a professional audio mixer. Bill Yost brought in an exceptionally sensitive, high input impedance voltmeter. Dennis and I designed and made a device for tracking galvanic skin response, GSR. Before long, we had a reasonably well-equipped lab to work in, even if it did have solder splatters all over the floor. We measured Bob. He measured us. One key datum Bob had derived from his personal study of out-of-body experience, OOBE, was the perception of a 4 hertz oscillation within his body, and a consciousness just before exiting his body and sometimes just after returning to it. Experimentation showed that when an instrumented person was caught in that pulsation state in our lab, the EEG indicated the brain waves collected by multiple pairs of electrodes were unusually coherent in phase, collectively synchronized, and modulated at 4 hertz. The GSR reading would begin oscillating at 4 hertz as well. Bob intuitively knew that this pulsation state was a key artifact, and we set out to reproduce it, capture it, and hold it steady on demand, and under our control. I know that if you ever about to have an out of body experience, if you're woke and you're going into like that sleep, you're like going in between that sleep and consciousness state, you will actually, it's ever so slight, well, at least I can feel it. My entire body, it begins to pulsate, right? It's almost like it's getting ready. You know how you about to jump double dutch? You know how you're getting ready? That's what it kind of feel like. Not as dramatic, but I can feel it's like a light pulsation that begins to flow through my whole body, right? And then I just drift off and voila, I'm out of body. A literature search had turned up a few old scholarly studies of outer body experience, which was also known as astral projection. Half a dozen highly respected, well-credentialed medical and technical professionals had been seriously studying out-of-body experiences for decades, mostly around the turn of the last century. A book by Dr. Hilward Carrington and Sylvan Muldoon entitled The Projection of the Astral Body, published in 1929 by Samuel Weiser of New York. And I'll spell this out just in case y'all want to look into this book. A book by Dr. Hilward Carrington. His name is spelled Hereward, and Carrington is Carrington. And Sylvan Muldoon, Sylvan Sylvan, Muldoon, Muldoon. And the book is entitled The Projection of the Astral Body, published in 1929 by Samuel Weiser of New York, suggested the pineal gland was somehow involved. Astral Projections, Out of the Body Experiences by Oliver Fox, and The Study and Practice of Astral Projection by Dr. Robert Crookall, University Press, 1960, agreed that the pineal gland was perhaps a key organ affecting the out-of-body experience. And so those last two books he just mentioned, Astral Projections, and it has, for the subtitle, is Astral Projections, Out of the Body Experiences is the subtitle. And the second book, well, the third book they mention is The Study and Practice of Astral Projection by Dr. Robert Crookall, Crookall. And the first one, Out of Body Experience, was by Oliver Fox. Y'all know how to spell that. Oliver Fox. Okay. We were in the cut and try mode of operation and would try anything at least once. Dennis and I always applied any unusual experimental devices to ourselves first. Only after we tested how it affected us and became convinced of its worth and safety, we would try it on others to gain a wider sample. Friends, visitors, passers-by, anyone. We were not picky. We were looking for something that would work with anybody and everybody. For example, one of the things we tried was to shake the pineal gland at 4 hertz. Trina, hey, Kara, hey. We built a huge capacitor with 2 feet plates to generate a uniform and strong electric field. We were committed and dedicated to the pursuit of our quest. Risk-taking was not an issue. With something like a 250,000 volt, 4 hertz AC signal being fed to the plates, I stuck my head between them and tried to reach a working altered state. I stayed there about an hour or so, experimenting with different voltages and frequencies against different altered states, hoping for a resonant effect to occur that would have dramatic effects on the state of my consciousness. Suddenly, I began to feel woozy. My head started to wobble dangerously between the exposed metal plates. The experiment was stopped. I had a terrible headache for about 3 weeks. We worked with negative ion generators to provide controlled backgrounds and use ultra-high impedance input voltmeters to study the changing electrical potentials generated by a body in an altered state versus a natural one. We measured the dynamic buildup of static charge around our heads with borrowed equipment as we eased in and out of various brainwave configurations measured by the EEG. It may seem a little like mad scientists toiling in their hilltop laboratory at the midnight hour, but we were as serious, sober, and straight as our counterparts working traditional problems in universities everywhere. We were careful about our science. Our methodology was good. We were cautious, and were we cautious and conservative? No, we were not cautious. If there was any reasonable chance of gaining knowledge, we took it. We were hard driven to find honest answers, real, verifiable, repeatable results. We wanted to know, and if this was the chance of a life, we wanted to know, and this was the chance of a lifetime to find out. We were fearless in our pursuit of truth because the risks were totally invisible to us. Sometimes the naivety and brash enthusiasm of youth has its advantages. Meanwhile, Dennis and I were working in and on the lab. Bob was leading us and teaching us to experience and explore the non-physical. He would first lead us into a deep relaxation state. Then using visualization, we would begin to focus our thoughts, center our attention, let go of our bodies and the environment. These exercises produced various states of consciousness that were similar to the meditation state I had learned to achieve with TM. Remember, TM is Transcendental Meditation. Bob thought that perhaps there was opportunity on the boundary between being awake and asleep. We practiced hovering on that edge. Put the body asleep and keep the mind awake simultaneously. Eventually, we got good at it, and it did not take us long to get there. After developing a basic competency in defining and establishing willful repeatably of a half dozen altered states of consciousness, we began experimenting and exploring the functionality of each state. Each mind state had its own unique functionality, things you could do, abilities you had while in that state. Chapter 9, Breakthrough. One day while I was at work, Dennis dropped by and showed me an article he had found in the October 1973 Scientific American. It was a short article by Gerald Oyster titled Auditory Beats in the Brain that described a phenomenon called binaural beats. Simply put, if a pure tone of, say, 100 hertz was put in one of your ears and a pure tone of 104 hertz in your other ear, you would perceive a 4 hertz beat frequency along with the 100 and 104 hertz tones. Dennis waited while I read it. Let's try that at the lab, he said. Sure, why not? I replied. Dennis had been gathering information on the binaural beat phenomena for some months and had created a binaural beat audio tape for us to experience with. Remember, this is in 1973, y'all. We just now hearing about binaural beats. I mean, y'all may not, but I have maybe like a few months back, right? But it works. Look. Let's try that at the lab, he said. Sure, why not? I replied. Dennis had been gathering information on the binaural beat phenomenon for some months and had created a binaural beat audio tape for us to experiment with. Our hope was that the beat frequency occurring in the corpus callosum between the brain's hemispheres would drive the brain waves. Dennis's intuition was correct. The binaural beats obviously affected our state of consciousness. During the next week, we begged, borrowed, and bought the necessary equipment to expand our experiments. Bob had gone out of town for a week or two. Subsequently, we experimented with the effect of binaural beats on altered states of consciousness on our own. After a week of trial and error experimenting, we were more excited about the possibilities. The effect was powerful. Using the binaural beat to entrain brain waves as measured by the EEG was a fact. The effect on one's state of consciousness was dramatic. Bob came back and we started testing what this technology could do. The good news was that by trial and error, we were able to significantly optimize the effect we were looking for. The better news was that it seemed to work well on everybody as it did on us. Now we had a technique for putting people with no training into specific altered states of consciousness at will, on demand, with consistent results. We focused on the 4 hertz beat and created a set of audio tapes that guided the listener into what Bob called non-physical matter reality, MPMR. Physical matter reality, PMR, contained my body, the lab, the house where I live, and my daytime job. Once in NPMR, the fun began. Now we had the potential to collect evidence that would be based on a much larger sample of subjects. As we gained experience with more people, we continually improved the effectiveness of the audio tapes. In about 8 months, we were ready for the world to give us a try. Bob put out the word that we needed a limited number of guinea pigs to try out our binaural beat brainwave entrainment techniques for facilitating the projection of one's consciousness into the non-physical as an aware operational entity. The response was overwhelming. Soon, Bob was booking every room at the nearby Tuckahoe Motel. The Tuckahoe management, having seen better times, agreed to let us string wires throughout their facility. Dennis and I had a lot to do before the big weekend when we would discover if our methodology was as effective as we thought it was. We expected about 20 total naive subjects, and we planned to keep them that way by telling them nothing. We did not want to lead their reactions and experiences by giving them any expectations. Building mobile measuring equipment and audio equipment for a large group was a challenge. We barely made our deadlines by working evenings and weekends for 3 weeks, but with the help of Bill Yost and Bob's stepdaughter, Nancy Lee Honeycutt, we had the equipment installed, checked out, and ready to go late in the afternoon of the last day. What a panic. In a parallel activity, Nancy Lee, who had joined our research team after her graduation from college, orchestrated and administered all the necessary arrangements. Somehow, at the last moment, everything pulled together. It was worth it. During Friday night, all day Saturday, and half of Sunday, the attendees had the time of their life. There were so many paranormal happenings that weekend that we had a difficult time getting them all recorded. These naive subjects were reading numbers in sealed envelopes, remote viewing, manifesting lights in the sky, visiting their relatives, reading next week's newspaper headlines, and much more. It was a circus. Fun but exhausting. Dennis, Nancy Lee, and I ran the show with visits from Bob on and off throughout the weekend. We collected lots of solid, evidential data. The results were more dramatic than we had expected. Things were never the same after that. When word got out about the effectiveness of Monroe's program, Bob was swamped with requests from people of all sorts wanting to participate. Bob began to see the makings of a business, and Dennis and I, along with Nancy Lee, became trainers more than researchers. Dayla, I knew you was going to say something. Manifesting lights in the sky. Makes you start to wonder and think, huh? Kimuntu Kiku, you start 87. Samba Salama fam. Mom, shalom, shalom. Keep looking into it, Dana. Keep looking into it. Chapter 10. But is it real? Let's slip back in time and view the whole from a slightly different perspective. My association with Bob Monroe presented a fantastic opportunity. With those years of practice, Dennis and I could easily differentiate among the various altered states of consciousness and get to them, shift between them, and come back to a normal state at will. However, it was not that easy to begin with. We worked hard and modified the rest of our lives to accommodate our work. I had decided that while I was working at the lab, I would take no mind-altering drugs of any sort. I was going to be confusing enough without that variable floating around in the equation. I had never used any illicit drugs as a student because it did not seem rational. I lived out of my mind. It was my ticket to success. I didn't want to mess anything up. But now I swore off even an occasional beer, not a drop, not socially or otherwise. I became a devout teetotaler for the cause of clarity. A few years later, food additives, preservatives, caffeine, and sugar were permanently banished from my diet. I reasoned that subtle natural effects might be washed out by the impact that these substances had on consciousness. I was right. The difference was dramatic. That's why you got to clean your diets up. If y'all really want to experience the unseen realm unhindered, you gotta get your lifestyle under control, including myself. I gotta break my sugar addiction to chocolate chip cookies and Reese's. I'm just being honest. Okay, I read this again. A few years later, food additives, no sugar, at least no sugar, the processed type sugar, but the sugars that you get from natural fruits, not like the fruit juices that they use regular fruits and add stuff. No. Regular fruits like orange juice, preserved orange juice that you buy from the store. I can't drink it. It will literally in moments drive my sugar sky high, and I can feel it, right? I'm used to that feeling from before when I was doing a whole lot of foolishness, like with the diabetes and everything, right? So when all that got under control by me eating right and going plant-based, I realized it took me a while just to try regular fresh orange juice. But the more I studied, I realized that the way natural fruits assimilate themselves in your system, it will not have that effect that processed sugars will. Natural sugars that come from your fruits will assimilate differently through your system. It may send your sugar up just a little bit, right? But only like it's supposed to, and then it levels out, right? So for like days, I done went through a couple bags of oranges just drinking straight orange juice. It don't bother me at all, right? It actually gives me energy. It does. Fresh squeezed juice doesn't have the same effect on me like store-bought juices do, which is why I try to stay away from that altogether, right? It wreaks havoc on your body. So none of the processed sugars, Dana. Fresh fruits and stuff like that. If you want to make natural snacks, you just gotta practice it and season it and flavor it with all types of herbs and stuff till you get a taste that you like. It's doable. I've tasted some really tasty, natural plant-based snacks that are really, really delicious, right? And they don't have the same effect on your body like all that processed stuff do. Thailand, hey girl, hey. Okay, back to the reading. A few years later, food additives, preservatives, caffeine, and sugar were permanently banished from my diet. I use honey. I use raw honey, but I still don't use a lot of it, So, you sold your house? Yay! Congratulations. You sold your house, meaning you was trying to sell your house. So, yay. Congratulations, Thailand. Okay. Yeah, so I'm still kind of careful with the honey, but I don't use it a lot anyway. I may use it in my tea. It just depends. Sometimes I can just go straight drink the tea without anything added to it. Sometimes if I want something a little sweet, I'll add a little bit of a tablespoon of honey in it or whatever. But you know, I haven't had any issues with the honey. Joy, you said you're working on it. I know we all got something we working on. Okay. A few years later, food additives, preservatives, caffeine, and sugar were permanently banished from my diet. I reasoned that subtle natural effects might be washed out by the impact that these substances had on consciousness. I was right. The difference was dramatic. The success of our research hinged on the clear perception of subtle shifts in consciousness. Anything that could potentially muddy those waters was dropped by the wayside. Bella, you gotta turn it down, Tootie. Or go through there. We logged thousands of hours exploring and probing the limits of reality, produced a huge pile of measured data, and filled up boxes full of audio that recorded every word of our sessions. Our mental space we practice in was non-physical, bodiless. Unlike my previous TM meditation, transcendental meditation, we were active, willful, autonomous agents within this larger, non-physical reality. We went places, did things, communicated with non-physical beings. It was fun. But neither of us could take it too seriously. Bob was careful to never lead the witness. He played the part of a neutral observer, never hinting at what we might experience or how we might experience it. He didn't want his experiences to influence or bias us. As far as we could tell, he had no expectations of what we could or would accomplish. Bob knew that if we were to experience the larger reality as he did, we would have to get there on our own. He could guide, but not lead. That would ruin the impending quality of our effort. He wasn't looking for an echo. He wanted to accomplish real science. Initially, Dennis and I had the same problem. Is this stuff real? We would ask each other. How could we tell if what we were experiencing was inside? Hold on. How could we tell if what we were experiencing was inside, we were imagining it, or outside, had its own existence independence of us? That was the burning big question for the both of us, and for Bob as well. Coffee, yeah, I know. Coffee is definitely. But as you begin to do a cleanse, though, well, at least in my case, as you begin to do a cleanse and you purposely don't get any, you can kick coffee in a matter of about, I'd say 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks. But you got to consciously make the decision not to get it. Like when you want it, go get some tea instead, right? You just got to work it out your system. Once it get out the system, you don't have those cravings, right? Because cravings come, especially like when you're fasting or something. If you fast long enough, you will notice that maybe some things that you may have been addicted to before or craved before, you will start getting those cravings again. But what's happening is loosening up the residuals of that was in you so it can completely get it out. And if you make it past that stage, you'll be to kick the habit for good unless you start it again. Go ahead, Tootie.
Can you open it for me?
Okay. You tried the dandelion drink, but it wasn't the same. I don't know that I would go straight to dandelion. Give me some Lipton hot tea first. Then we'll move to the green tea. right? Then I gotta test the different flavors. Give me something with some flavor or something, right? Yeah. I'm kind of picky. If I can't get it just right, I'm gonna just chuck it all together. Like, don't even give me any kind of imitation. Wait, black coffee ain't good. No, you can drink black coffee. Matter of fact, I can drink black coffee. Black coffee. If you can start drinking black coffee, matter of fact, if you fast, if you can drink black coffee, I mean, okay. So it depends on what you're using it for. Like if you're like weaning yourself off, you can because coffee is a natural it's like natural caffeine. So if you're like testing something like with your consciousness and observing, then you probably shouldn't take in the caffeine. That's what he was talking about. He kicked all the caffeine altogether. But if you're trying to stay woke and you're not necessarily, doing anything spiritual, then hey, have at it. Drink all the coffee you want, if that's your choice. Yeah, try chai or something like that. Chai tea, chi tea. Yeah, it's the cream and the sugar that's bad that'll add all the extra stuff to it. You know what, Linda? I don't know how people can drink tea with milk in it. I know it's a thing, and I tried it before, and I spit it right out. That is just not a taste that I have acquired. Linda said, yeah, I'm a Lipton tea baby here, drinking some now without the milk. Okay, y'all. Let me finish this. Where we at? We at an hour, 1 minute? Okay. How much more is shopping? Okay. Not that long of a shot. We got like 2 more pages. Actually 4 because it's front and back. Okay. Eventually, we gained enough good mental control and facility in working with altered states that Bob thought we were ready to begin collecting some evidence to determine the operational significance of what we were experiencing in MPMR. Remember, NPMR is non-physical matter reality, meaning inside of your altered states of consciousness, inside of your astral projecting. You're trying to bring back some real proof of you astral projecting or remote viewing and stuff like that. Okay. Eventually, we gained enough mental control and facility in working with altered states that Bob thought that we were ready to begin collecting some evidence to determine the operational significance of what we were experiencing in NPMR. Dennis and I were excited about the possibilities and willing to accept the facts however they came out. We had been eager to objectively test the operational significance of our subjective experience for some time. Bob had wanted us to wait until he thought we were ready. Neither of us was particularly optimistic or pessimistic. We wanted to know the truth. We were in the discovery mode and open to all possibilities. As long as our methodology was sound, we were confident that eventually enough results would accumulate to tell their own story. One of our first experiments was for Dennis and me to take a trip experience in the non-physical together. Our independent descriptions of what we were experiencing should correlate closely if the experience were real and independent of either of us. I remember I mentioned to y'all way back, me and my sister, my sister the sister that's next to me, Leisha, when we were younger, we used to try stuff like this, right? So although we were kids, we had like kid thoughts and stuff, we just knew that we could be in each other's dreams, right? At that time, we didn't understand the term astral projecting or remote viewing or whatever. But when we wanted to be in each other's dreams, because we shared a bedroom, right? We had like twin beds. And so we would fall to sleep holding each other's hand, right? That was our way. Okay, we're gonna be in each other's dreams tonight, so we gotta hold hand. We gotta find like a link, right? So make sure we try to position our hand. We like scoot our beds together so we can position our hands. So in the point of us being asleep, we wouldn't let each other's hands go and then like disconnect from the dream. That was our rational thinking. At what 8 and 9 years old. Okay. One of our first experiments was for Dennis and me to take a trip experience and the non-physical together. Our independent descriptions of what we were experiencing should correlate closely if the experience were real and independent of either of us. From the beginning of our training, we had learned to give real-time descriptions of whatever we experienced. A microphone was suspended from the ceiling above each of our heads. What we said was recorded on tape. Dennis and I could not hear each other because we were in separate, soundproof chambers. Dennis and I quickly achieved the appropriate altered state, left our bodies, and met in the non-physical as planned. It was a long adventure. We went places, saw things, had conversations with each other, and with several non-physical beings we happened to run into along the way. Bob had let us go a long time before he ended the session and called us back. He pulled off our EEG and GSR electrodes and stumbled out of the darkness into the hallway of the lab. In the control room, Bob was waiting for us. After a quick exchange, we knew that this would be a good test because we both had experienced many specific interactions. But were they the same interactions? Bob looked at us deadpan. So you think you two were together? He asked, trying to sound disappointed. We looked at each other and shrugged our shoulders. Maybe, Dennis said tentatively. At least we perceived meeting each other. Listen to this, Bob said emphatically. The tapes rewound as we disconnected electrodes and climbed out of our chambers began to roll forward. We sat down and listened. The correlation was astonishing. For almost 2 hours, we sat there with our mouths open, hooting and exclaiming, filling in the details for each other. Bob was now grinning. Now, that tells you something, doesn't it? He exclaimed, beaming. He was every bit as excited as we were. I was dumbfounded. There was only one good explanation. This stuff is real. My mind searched for some other more rational explanation. Perhaps only one of us imagined the trip, and the other was reading his thoughts telepathically, I said, trying to cover all the possibilities. That was almost as far out as the first explanation, but not quite. The undeniable fact was we had seen the same visuals, heard the same telepathic conversations, and experienced the same clarity. This stuff might actually be real. I said aloud to no one in particular. Dennis and I sat there wide-eyed, incredulous, and at a loss to explain it any other way. I said those same 6 words. This stuff might actually be real. Over and over to myself 50 times during the next few days. I could not believe it, but I had to. I was there. This was my own experience. I was not reading this in a book about somebody else. In the vernacular of the times, I was blown away. You cannot understand the impact something such as this has until it happens to you. One more data point was in. My reality was about to get broader and stranger. We repeated that experiment with similar results. It wasn't a phenomenon that depended on the two of us. Nancy Lee and I shared equally astonishing joint experiences. We tried other things as well. We read 3 and 4 digit numbers written on a blackboard next in the control room. Somebody would write a random number and we would read it while our bodies lay asleep. Then they would erase it and write another one, and so on and so on. We went places, to people's homes, and saw what they were doing. Then called them or talked to them the next day to check it out. We traveled into the future and into the past. Y'all ever been in your house or somewhere? Y'all know how y'all can feel somebody's presence walk up on y'all, or somebody walk into the room, even if they're being really quiet, even if there's not a squeaking on the floor or they didn't move anything, but they just move in complete silence where there is no possible way you could have heard them, but you can still feel them come into the room. I know everybody has had to experience that, right? Now I know that that is truly a presence, right? It's either a physical presence of somebody in my house or it's a presence of somebody else who has entered. Now, sometimes I can tell, well, not recently, but a few times I could tell that the presence was not friendly. I say, you better get out of here. I don't even know who you are, but I ain't playing with you today. And sometimes when I feel the presence, it's friendly, and I still talk to it. I'm like, hey, I don't know who you is, but hey, because you can't, in that state, you can just pop in on people and you can see stuff, right? I'm just saying, some people use it for nefarious reasons. That's why I'm like, a lot of time people, a teacher, just if you just coming from the church era, they'll teach you that it's all demonic activity. I'm like, no, my G. Sometimes it could be humans playing with you that know how to do this. Yeah. One day I was going to do it right. I was going to try and scare my husband.
Right. Good luck with that.
I called my sister before I did it. I said, Alicia, I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to astral project because he was sitting out on the back. He was sitting out on the back porch. I said, Alicia, I'm going to do it. I'm gonna just go out there and I think I'm gonna just knock something over on the table, right? And she said, girl, don't do it. She said, first of all,
Sure.
I was like, no, let me stop. I ain't gonna do that. I was like, because I don't want to get in the habit of pranking people in the astral realm, because I seen something, right? I forget what it was. It was a series I was watching, and they were astral projecting.
Ghost.
Oh my God. No, not ghosts. It wasn't ghosts. It was oh man.
These are breaks.
The magicians. There was an astral realm. This guy, see what happened to him, I wouldn't have taken as far as he did, right? He was known for pranking people, but he put himself in the altered state of consciousness and he just kind of astral projected, but he would go prank people. But one time, when they found out what he was doing, when he was astral projecting, they took his body and hid his body. And so when he came back looking for his body, he couldn't find his body and he was stuck in the astral realm. They had just kind of taken him and they had like this bench that you could sit on, but had cabinets that you could open. They opened up the cabinets under the seat and they slid his body in there. So, I mean, they could kind of see anyway when something was going on, which I'm like, okay, if you was there, you was so deep into your prank, you didn't realize what was happening, huh?
Was that the movie we watched that one time? There's one in the mirror?
No, not that one.
What was that?
They were going into parallel universes. Not that. I forget what that's called, but I know exactly what you're talking about. But no, I was like, yeah, I don't want to get in the habit of pranking people in the astral realm. That's not what I'm here for. But I know you can do it, right? So I was like, no, I ain't gonna do that. I ain't gonna scare them, So I decided against it. I was gonna. Now let me tell you the day I was gonna do it. I got pissed with you.
Another day in the paradise. What?
You was out on the back. You was sitting out on the back drinking. You was sitting out there drinking something, and I was like, I'm gonna go over there. I'm gonna knock it over, and he gonna come in. He gonna think that, man, I must have knocked the table or something and knocked it over, and he's just gonna come in here and get something else to drink. And I was just gonna keep knocking it over.
Wow.
I decided, I called my sister. I'm like, look, just in case, girl, I'm gonna need you to check in because I don't want to be.
Oh, you messed up with your head knocked off. It didn't work, sis.
I talked to her for about 10 minutes. I was like, you know what? I ain't gonna do it. I decided against it. Okay.
Man.
See, because
y'all knew Pam. If y'all knew Pam, y'all know she's the most scariest person in the world.
Look, as I thought about the guy.
Shadow, man.
Look, because I thought, I'm like, okay, what if I knock it over like the second or third time and he come in the house and he come upstairs to get me and I'm in an altered state, and what if I can't get back into my body? That's why I called my sister, because I'm gonna need you. Look, I'm gonna need you to call. I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna keep you updated just in case though this don't go the way I planned it. You need to let him know, hey, she ain't dead. Leave her body alone. Give her a second to get back in her body.
Pam is scary, y'all.
Look. Okay. Look. I figure out I gotta test it some way, right? So I be thinking about all kinds of stuff. I was like, I'm gonna figure out a way to test this stuff. So I figured, look, I'm gonna let y'all know. I'm gonna try and do teleportation sometime in the future, right? So, but I figured since we always being watched through our device, I'm just thinking about it. I said, okay, I gotta do it in a way where I can't be seen by cameras. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go in my bathroom upstairs, leave my phone and everything. I'm gonna check the bathroom downstairs, make sure ain't nobody in there first, and then I'm gonna do it. And I'm gonna just kind of teleport from bathroom to bathroom, just test it. And then when I get it to work, I'm gonna call my sister. I'm like, okay, Leisha, here's what we're gonna do. Because I don't know how far I'll be able to do it. And then I need to make sure that at least Jeremiah is home, just in case I teleport myself to my sister's house and I can't teleport back. I got about 45-minute drive before I can get back home. So I need to make sure Jeremiah is home, just in case, you know, I can't get myself back in time and I don't want to leave the smaller kids in the house by themselves. I see, baby. Anyway, those are some of my shenanigan thoughts, y'all. So.
And Mom? And Mommy?
Yes, Pooh.
Next you get your jacket on next to me and you can go outside.
I don't know, Tootie. Give me a few minutes. I don't want to play in the snow right now. Hold on. Let me finish reading this. Okay.
No, I mean you cannot play.
You just want me to stand out there while you play.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, let me think about this, girl.
And I want to go in the backyard.
You want to go in the backyard? Okay.
Not in the front. I wanna go
Not in the front, in the back. Okay. Give me a few minutes. Okay. Where's my spot? Oh, okay. One more data point was in. My reality was about to get broader and stranger. We repeated that experiment with similar results. It wasn't a phenomenon that depended on the two of us. Nancy Lee and I shared equally astonishing joint experiences. We tried other things as well. We read 3- and 4-digit numbers written on the blackboard next to the control room. Somebody would write a random number and we would read it while our bodies lay asleep. Then they would erase it and write another one, and so on and on. We went places, to people's homes, and saw what they were doing, then called them and talked to them the next day to check it out. We traveled into the future and into the past. We tried to heal people's illnesses with our minds and intent, because that was a good technique for interacting evidentially with the energy of others. Have y'all ever seen those people? Y'all should look it up. And they actually have people, some of them they call Reiki healers or whatever, but those are the people who are really familiar and trained with the body's energy, and they can use the energy from their body, right? If they've been living like a pure holistic life and their energy vibrates high, they've been known to be able to lay their hands on people and radiate and push some of their energy from them into the people who needs healing. And they're actually testing stuff that have been done. Now, mind you, they don't really want that type of information getting out because doctors still want to push their drugs and stuff. But if people heal the energy in their own bodies, they could heal themselves, right? They could literally lay their hands on themselves. You have a friend that does Reiki, Joy? Yeah. Y'all should really look into it. Linda said, I heard of it. They do it through the energy of their hands. Yes, they do, you know. So, but yeah, y'all should look into it. That will bring a whole new meaning of laying hands on the sick and healing them, right? You can literally do that through the energy of your body. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be a Christian or whatever. If you learn how to control the energy in your body, heal your own energy, i.e. heal your chakra points, all the energy that flows along your spine with your main organs that produces it for your life, you are able to do that. Okay. We designed, generated, and tested intent focusing tools for our use in the non-physical. We diagnosed illnesses in people we never met, but that somebody else knew as well. Hold on. Yeah, we diagnosed illnesses in people we never met, but that somebody else knew as well. The evidence poured in. Now there were hundreds of data points. Later, evidentiary experiences tended to be more clear and often more dramatic than the initial ones. We began to discern subtleties of the altered states, where things worked well and where things did not work well. We refined our processes and improved our efficiency slowly during the next 3 years. It was a painstaking trial and error process. Dennis and I were the same demanding and skeptical scientists that we had started this adventure. Dennis and I were the same demanding, excuse me. Dennis and I were the same demanding and skeptical scientists that had started this adventure, but we had stopped asking if it was real. We now knew the answer. We also realized that one has to experience it oneself to get to that point. Nobody else can convince you, which is why I tell y'all should really go actually practice what we're reading about, right? Otherwise, you're going to continue to be a naysayer. Oh, that's the devil. You can go to hell. I'm like, really? Okay. Well, you won't see me there when you get there. Let me stop. Hold on. Dennis and I were the same demanding and skeptical scientists that had started this adventure, but we had stopped asking if it was real. We now knew the answer. We also realized that one has to experience it oneself to get to that point. Nobody else can convince you. You simply must experience it yourself. All the data in the world, regardless of how carefully taken, becomes suspect if you are not there to participate and know the truth of the matter firsthand. Old beliefs must be shattered before you can begin to imagine a bigger picture. Until the inescapable logic of unambiguous firsthand experience hits you squarely between the eyes, the truth does not sink in deeply. That is the way I was, and so is most of everybody else. I suppose by now, Dennis and I were certifiably strange. We were strange because of what we knew to be true by our carefully evaluated experience. We could not deny what we had seen, heard, and measured, even if it was incredibly strange. We knew how careful, skeptical, and demanding we were. We knew how high our standards of evidence were. We also knew that nobody else could possibly understand unless they experienced these truths for themselves. Once you find true knowledge, ignorance is no longer an option. And if the knowledge you find is unusual, then strange becomes a way of life. Our activity was not entirely internal. For example, Dennis and I were encouraged to volunteer for some remote viewing experiments at the well-known Sleep and Dream Lab. The object was, under controlled conditions, to describe pictures being displayed in another room. As it turns out, being able to describe all the pictures correctly was not the most remarkable thing that happened. When the EEG scrolls were returned from Duke University, where they had been sent for more detailed analysis, a higher level of strangeness was evidenced. We were told that Dennis's EEG results produced the highest level of alpha waves ever recorded at Duke. Mine exhibited strong simultaneous levels of alpha and theta, unlike anything they had ever seen before. Both were singular events previously unseen by the Duke researchers because of the narrowness of the peaks. This was particularly meaningful because during the 60s and 70s, Duke University was recognized worldwide as the leader in parapsychological research. Oh yeah, Mr. Miyagi and the Karate Kid gave a good example of healing by transferring energy. You're absolutely right. I forgot about that. Sure did. Daniel's son. Our brain waves were, it seemed, tightly focused to specific, nearly single frequencies. We were not particularly surprised by the tight focusing, but duly noted with interest that out of thousands and thousands of EEG analysis results, ours stood out as blatantly unique. Your data blew them away at Duke, we were told by the researcher. We had for some time felt that we were learning and develop. We had for some time felt that what we were learning and developing was uniquely effective at producing specific altered states. But now we had corroborating evidence. An independent lab at Duke had substantiated a physical manifestation of this uniqueness. Once the mental door of indisputable fact is pried open, the light begins to flood through. The old questions returned with new meaning. Now my reality, my picture, was bigger than I could have previously imagined. Nevertheless, I continually wondered if there were other subjective experiences that could produce consistent, objective, measurable results. Where were the boundaries? How much more reality was out there that I had missed? Could there be other operational states of consciousness hiding in the darkness of my ignorance? I was driven to understand how everything was related, how it all worked together. Surely there was some sort of science at the root. We had lots of data, but no self-consistent model to explain the hows and whys of it all, to define the interactions. How did reality function? What were the processes, the limits, and the rules? Is this the way it is, or only the way it seems? What did the big picture look like, where all the data are consistent and make sense? How could any self-respecting physicist not ask these questions? Bob, Dennis, and I would discuss it down at the house after the work at the lab was done. We informally came up with some "the way things were" and "the way things seemed to be" statements, but they lacked deeper understanding. We surveyed the existing models, mostly a mishmash of emotions-laden, belief-focused, unscientific balderdash with little or no hard evidence that was reproducible. That was not what we were looking for. This was a scientific inquiry, not a New Age gathering of the faithful. Finally, we ran across a candidate model, a place to start. Though imperfect, it was more or less rational, consistent, and coherent most of the time. That made it much better than the rest. Its explanations and descriptions were not complete, nor necessarily a place to end up, but it did provide a theoretical basis from which to tentatively and skeptically begin. This model came to us in the form of Seth Speaks, and that's a book by Jane Roberts. Seth, S-E-T-H, Speaks, S-P-E-A-K-S. This model came to us in the form of Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts. That was the material This model came to us in the form of Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts. That the material was channeled was not a problem for us. By then, we were all personally familiar with the non-physical and its host of sentient beings. In fact, it was a plus. Would you ask a fish about mountain hiking trails? No, not if you expected an accurate or useful answer. We began to spend much of our training time at the lab testing and interpreting Seth's concepts and procuring information from our own non-physical resources. We worked on these issues for several years, slowly gaining ground. It was sometimes confusing, sometimes clarifying, but always interesting, and always evidence was required. I worked harder at these particular models of reality issues than the others. I was the theoretician of the group, what you might expect from a physicist. Dennis's was more into applications, what you might expect from an engineer. Bob was a practical man focused primarily on whatever worked and upon gaining and maintaining objective credibility. Bill Yost contributed his engineering insights, management skills, encouragement, and support. Nancy Lee did much of the daily support work and became a full partner in our explorations of non-physical reality. as had her sister, Penny Honeycutt, a few years before. It was a good team. We were all aided and abetted along the way by our families, who for the most part participated in our research from time to time, and many unmentioned others. The research flowed in whichever direction seemed most productive at the time. Bob did not direct as much as he facilitated. Having perfected the wise and knowing smile of all good teachers who know how to let their students figure it out for themselves, he managed to float above the day-to-day effort and let our individual research take us wherever it would. And that, my beautiful people, is the end of chapter 10. Where we at? We're at an hour and 30 minutes. Let's see something. The next chapter is about 3. It's 3 actual pages, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 4.5. 4.25 pages long. Y'all want to read one more chapter? We at an hour and 30 minutes. I'm asking because it's Saturday. Y'all might have to go, and then again you might not. Ooh. And so section 2 begins after chapter 16. That's what I was looking for, section 2. So we might actually finish the rest of section 1 tomorrow. Y'all want to read another chapter? I think we're good for today. We'll pause. Chapter 11 is entitled, If This Is Tuesday, I Must Be in Physical Matter Reality. I'll let y'all choose today again. Y'all want to read one more chapter? Or let's wrap it up for today. I got a few more minutes. If you're wondering, if you're concerned about me. Yay, nay. Yay, nay. Yay, nay. First answer has it. First answer has it. And it'll take us about 5 minutes to read the next chapter. Yay, nay. Yay, nay. Wrap it up. First answer got it. Wrap it up. All right, y'all. So we're going to pause right here. All right. So tomorrow we'll start with chapter 11. Okay. So I hope y'all enjoyed it for today. So we actually read chapters 8 through 10 today. It was pretty good chapters. All right, y'all. So it is Saturday, January the 22nd, 2022, day 11 of year 4. I was about to say 3. Day 11 of year 4 of reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets. We read, of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1029, we read Genesis 31, 32, and 33. And then in My Big Toe, we read chapters 8 through chapter 10. All right, y'all. You're welcome, Joy. It was great. I really, really love this book. So let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let me call Bella, see if she want to do the blessing. Hold on. Bella! Oh, there you go. Oh, I'm about to do the blessing. You want to come do it? I thought you had one upstairs, girl. Come on.
Hey, Mom, me and you can go play after in the backyard.
Yeah, Tootie, we're going to go. I got to get all bundled up.
It's actually cold out there.
It is cold. Girl, what is this lint? What did you put on your head?
I think spray.
Did what?
I think spray.
Don't put that on your head. Okay. Lint.
Mom, that's not lint. That's snow.
That is not snow. You ain't even been outside today yet. Okay.
Yes, I did. I touched the snow and with my bare feet
That was last night, Pooh.
When Dad did the tricks with his car.
Dad did the tricks with his car. He was outside spinning donuts in the truck.
And
yes, have a yawsome day. I like that. Have a yawsome day.
Mom.
A yawsome
Mom.
day. Yes, baby girl. Hold on.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, I forgot. Let's move this over.
Mom.
Yes,
In
sir.
our new house.
Oh, girl, I don't know about all that. She's talking about something in our new house. Can I get a sister?
No.
Like, we can just go buy them from the store.
No.
Please.
More messes. More crying.
Let's do this blessing. And get out of her.
I'm not.
Okay, y'all.
Mom, I can sister now.
No. First of all, hold on. Turn around this way. Hop down. Go get a piece. Who's that coming down the stairs? Give me a piece of tissue. Give me a piece of tissue. See your face, girl. You keep looking right there. Hold on, y'all. Team Sister for Bella Joy. Come on, whose side are you on here? That is at least, granted, it's a 18-year investment, but connected to my body, that's almost like a 2 year, a 2 year. I said a piece, not the whole roll, sorry. Thank you, Cause I nurse my babies and I don't know that I want another child attached
Especially
to me.
this baby right here.
First of all, son, you have dressed. Get from in front of the camera.
I'm sorry, but this baby right here. I swear, this little girl walk around like she own everything. Every time I want to go out with my girlfriend, she be like, you ain't going nowhere. This little person right here, she thinks she over here 47, and she's only what? How old is she? 4? Yeah, this bro. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this little child right here.
Leave her alone.
I thought a little sister was gonna be fun. They said no, it's not.
Yeah.
Are we moving, Dana? Yeah, we'll be moving soon. We're gonna be buying a house.
What's a movie theater?
They really want a movie theater in the house.
We don't have a movie theater.
I think this is.
No.
We've been looking. We saw one. Somebody had built their house. We really want to build one. But I think we're gonna buy one this time. But we had been looking at some. We saw one where somebody had actually built their house and they actually built a movie theater. It's like a family movie theater, you know. And they had like the reclining chairs and they had kind of like level stage. You know, when you go into movie theaters, it has levels in there. They built it just like that. It was really nice, you know, but clearly it sold as soon as it got up there. We weren't fast enough. So but we have to we're looking for something that's big enough.
Mom.
That's big enough. So what you push? Okay, hold on. Something that's big enough because we got a whole bunch of kids. Something that's big enough and have the right amount of space, right? So we still looking. All right, y'all. So the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. Come on, you ready? Let's do it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us presenting gifts, and he will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. Love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow. Yes,
Mom, I think it's slippery out there.
Yeah, it is.
It might be.
Once you walk back in the house, you will slip.
No, so you be careful. We'll put down what you call it in front of the door, so you step on that and take your boots off, and then walk through the house. All right, beautiful people. Love y'all. See y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.